Hey, what's going on, y'all? Eric Moser here with Code Red Conversations. Thanks for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a mantra that has been repeated over and over again to where we're at the point to where you can't even question it nowadays. It's like the old adage in regarding a lie repeated oftentimes over and over again will eventually be considered to be truthful or something along those lines, because I know I butchered it. We're living in a time right now where if you make the claim that the police shootings and police brutality is only worse today than it ever was, that is basically assumed to be an unquestionable fact. If you ever ask for data to support that claim, or you question the validity of it, you're looked upon as either being a racist, a bigot, or a sellout, or Uncle Tom. And that concept is, in my opinion, is repeated in order to avoid having to support that claim. In today's video, we're going to be addressing that claim by taking a little trip through history from the 60s, 70s, all the way up until now. And we'll see whether that claim holds water or not. So stay tuned. Real quick, if you like and enjoy my content, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and share my videos so you never miss out on any of my newer content. Okay, let's jump right in. The first place we're going to go to this page here, which is a report from a group called the Dolan Consulting Group, which did a report titled "Dispelling the Myths Surrounding the Police Use of Lethal Force." You can find it pretty much all over the internet. And it is a wealth of knowledge. This section right here, it says the media, politicians, and civil rights groups are concerned about why police use of deadly force is so high today. Suggestions that police use of deadly force today is higher than in past decades tends to demonstrate a failure to have a grasp of history. And that's exactly why I wanted to get into this. Prior to 1985, few judicial decisions limited police use of force. And it was the law of the land that the police officers could shoot somebody simply for fleeing the commission of a felony. That was the law of the land at one point in our history. Crazy, but it's reality. Such as burglary, drug dealing, or auto theft. Most police departments back then lacked a written use of force policy, which is a far cry from where we are today. Use of force policies are everywhere, and I would be shocked if I came across a department that didn't have any. As a result, officer-involved shootings were far more prevalent 3 or 4 decades ago. And here's the point that I want y'all to really focus on. In 1971, as a baseline, in 1971, the New York Police Department alone had 1,562 officer-involved shootings, basically 4.2 per day. I'm going to repeat that. In 1971, NYPD alone had 1,562 officer-involved shootings. Or when the burden for a justified shooting was so low, shootings were happening all the time. It wasn't until later on when case law such as Graham versus Connor, Tennessee versus Garner came about, which really created a universal standard by which law enforcement is held to, which dramatically reduced the number of shootings by the police, dramatically reduced it. I'll share with you the link of this so you guys can check it out. I'll put that down in the video notes. Hopefully that'll help you out. Share with you another screen here, because we're still working on one video. One agency doesn't necessarily dispel that claim. So let's dig a little deeper. So we talked about in 1971 what the NYPD, what their standard was, or how often shootings took place. Okay? Let's scroll down a little bit here. This article says, police shootings, this is from 2019, December 4th, 2019. Police shootings, use of force on the rise, NYPD. There was a concern that the use of force, the amount of shootings by the NYPD was higher than normal. All right, just I'll skim through the initial portion, but there's a specific area I want to bring us to. Police used force to take down suspects more often last year than the year before, despite affecting far fewer arrests, according to new data. Now, there could be a multitude of reasons why that number has increased. Personally, I would say it has something to do with the concept of the Ferguson effect, with police officers drawn back due to such overwhelming criticism and scrutiny that's taken place, which I would also add unnecessary, and the amount of hatred that has taken place in our nation since the Eric Garner case, the Michael Brown shooting. It's become more prevalent for police officers to be attacked and for people to be aggressive towards the police. It's been inconsistent, but it's been on a steady increase over the last 6 years or so. A use of force report released late Tuesday shows cops got rough 7,879 times in 2018 to affect 246,781 arrests. That's a 500 incident increase over 2017, when force was used 7,369 times in 286,227 arrests. Okay, well, let's get to the main point of what I wanted to bring up. So we talked about how there were over 1,000 shootings, I think it was 1,500 shootings back in 1971. And the claim that we're dealing with, once again, is whether or not things have only gotten worse when it comes to police use of force, police abuse of power, police brutality. That's the claim. So we go from over 1,500 shootings by the police in 1971 to when this article came out, December 4th of 2019, it says right here, so far this year, there were 22, NYPD again, there were 22 police-involved shootings, 12 of which were fatal. There were 15 people shot by cops in 2018, 5 of whom died. In 2017, there were 19 shot, 10 killed. The same city, same state, and a dramatic decrease in the number of shootings that has taken place over a 49, 50-year period, roughly, or close to that. One city. Hey, just wanted to add a bit of additional information to this video, to this section of the video. In New York City in 1970, the population was 7,894,862. In comparison, the 2020 census data has the New York City population at 8,336,817. Once again, that's 8,336,817. An increase of 441,955. Once again, I'm not going to assume that ends the argument right there. I'm just going to leave that out there, let that marinate, let y'all think about that for a little while. So let's go and do a little bit more research, shall we? And hopefully y'all can see this. Who are the police killing? This is from the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. If you read through the whole article, not necessarily an organization that's known for being pro-police. And those of you who've heard me give my speech on my presentation on police brutality, which I'll put a link above so you guys can check that out, might be familiar with me sharing some of this data. But for those of y'all that are new, you might find this pretty interesting. While stats are always suspect over time, or sometimes suspect, I would say, killings by law enforcement officers appears to be much lower today than in the past. In the late 1960s, nearly 100 young black men under the age of 25 were killed by law enforcement every year. And that was with half the population that we have today. Even as the black youth and young adult population doubled over the last 40 years, police shootings of young black men fell to around 35 in the 2000s, a rate decline of 79%. While young African Americans were the victims in 1 in 4 killings by the police in 1968 and 1974 period, and 1 in 7 from 1975 to 1984, today the proportion is 1 in 10. So you see a definite decline in the number of shootings of young Black men, in particularly 25 and under, by the police. Similarly, police killings of African Americans 25 and older have declined by 61% since the late 1960s. 61%. He goes on to say the rates for younger African Americans remain 4 to 5 times higher, and for older African Americans, 1.7 times higher than for other races and ages. But there could be a variety of reasons for that. One of those being the crime rate, which we can't ignore. We can't ignore that reality, that there could be a clear correlation between the crime rate within certain segments of our population and the amount of times they come into contact violently with the police. There seems to be something going on here, but I don't want to end there. I'd like to share some more recent data with y'all, if you don't mind. Now, this is the police shooting database started by the Washington Post around 2015, when there was the initial uproar over the amount of shootings that have taken place, in particularly the police shooting Black folks, Black males. Once again, the question that we're asking is, have things gotten worse over the years? Now, this is from 2015. We're going to examine the amount of shootings, in particularly unarmed shootings of Black males from 2015 till, I believe, 2020. I believe it goes up to 2020. Okay, in 2015, according to the Washington Post, there were 38 unarmed Black men who were shot by the police. Once again, an area that I always want to point out is that unarmed doesn't necessarily mean that someone is not dangerous. Every year, roughly 1,000 people or more, depending on what source you're listening to. FBI sometimes may put the number lower. CDC puts it higher. There can be 1,000 or more people who are killed where no weapon is involved, where the suspect basically just uses their hands, feet, suffocation, strangulation, asphyxiation every year. So let's not assume that unarmed means that someone can no longer be a threat. So we looked at, in 2015, it says that 38 people who fit this criteria, Black and unarmed, were killed by the police. All right, let's check out another year here. Let's get rid of that. Let's go to 2016. It says there were 19. So you had 38. In 2016, you have 19. 2017, there were 22. 2018, 23. Right here, 23. Labor Division FBI Uniform Crime Report puts the number of law enforcement officers anywhere from 500,000 to nearly 2 million, the number of cops in the country. And I've heard data, and in the Dolan Report is one of those sources that puts the number of police contacts all the way up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 375 million contacts with citizens, with the public, every single year. So that's a lot of contacts. Within the neighborhood of 10, 11 million arrests being conducted every single year, roughly. Okay, let's look at 2019. There were 12 unarmed Black males shot by the police. And lastly, we'll look at 2020. 15. I wanted to go a little further, but I think that gets the job done. Once again, we hear this repeated so often. And if you dare to question it, people look at you like you're nuts. Like, how dare you question that? But based on what I shared with you, there is no question, unquestionably, things have dramatically changed. Dramatically changed. The information was presented to you, the data. We're looking at time periods from the 60s all the way up until almost the present. Once again, check my sources, check the data that I shared with you so that you can see for yourself whether it's valid or not. But I think the argument has been thoroughly destroyed. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to displace it and ignore it and go on living and repeating a lie? Or are you in a position where you know this to be true, but yet you really don't want to get involved or get people upset? And for those of you who are in that last category, I would just suggest to you to step up and be bold with the truth, because you never know the impact that this data, this information can have on someone. We had more cops last year get attacked than in any time in recent history, all based on exaggerations, all based on lies. What we're seeing now is a steady decline in the amount of deadly force that the police use, clearly. So do your part in being a beacon of truth to help stop the spread of these lies. I hope you found this video informative. Once again, please share. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss out on any of my newer content. And in the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation.